And let's start with a little crossover. The Caitlin Clark NBA crossover, Caitlin Clark's debut as an NBA analyst on NBC. So the ratings were just released for that Lakers-Knicks game on Sunday, and it was the most watched regular season Sunday night NBA game since 2002. They had 4.5 million viewers on NBC, and it peaked at 5 million.
Caitlin Clark just pulled off something honestly insane. NBC gave her a microphone for one NBA broadcast, just one appearance, and suddenly the network is staring at numbers they didn't expect at all. We're talking viewership spikes, records getting attention again, and executives already hinting they want her back as soon as possible. What's crazy is she didn't even have to step on the court to dominate the spotlight. Somehow she's still driving conversation across the basketball world. So let's break down exactly what happened and why NBC suddenly can't stop talking about her return. And before we dive into those wild numbers, drop a comment and tell me, did you actually watch Caitlin as an analyst live, or are you just catching the buzz afterward?
Taylor, Carmelo Anthony, and Reggie Miller. But this was the most watched game of the season so far across all networks except for the tip-off games and also Christmas Day. And NBC actually talked about Caitlin Clark being a part of the broadcast. It said Rick Cordella spoke positively about Clark's debut, noting that she did a good job and handled the role with ease. He highlighted her understanding of the game and her ability to communicate clearly, two qualities that translate well from the court to the broadcast booth. They said that Clark was well prepared and comfortable in the setting, something that stood out given the size of the audience and the spotlight that comes with an NBA national broadcast. And I feel like that was a given.
All right, here's where things start getting really interesting. NBC rolled out their Sunday night NBA doubleheader, and when the ratings came back, they were honestly eye-opening. The Lakers versus Knicks game at Madison Square Garden pulled around 4.5 million viewers across NBC and Telemundo. Yeah, 4.5 million people tuned in. That officially made it the most watched Sunday night regular season NBA game since 2002, excluding Christmas Day matchups, of course. And here's an important piece of context. The NBA hasn't consistently scheduled national Sunday night broadcasts like this until recently. Still though, context or not, 4.5 million is a massive number in today's sports media world. And one detail everyone keeps circling back to? Caitlin Clark sitting at that analyst desk, bringing her energy to the broadcast. If you enjoy breakdowns like this, make sure you hit subscribe and stick around, because this story is only getting bigger.
Caitlin Clark being nervous in that situation because she has been on the biggest stages throughout her entire career, especially at Iowa. If you want to talk about that Iowa national championship game against South Carolina, they had over 20 million people who tuned into that game. So it seems like with Caitlin Clark, she rises to the occasion. But NBC also said that they are planning to bring Clark back later this season. They confirmed that she is scheduled to appear as an analyst for the Knicks versus Thunder on March 29th. Hopefully by that time, they're not talking about.
At this point, Caitlin almost has that rare effect where anything she touches instantly gets attention. It's honestly fascinating to watch unfold in real time. Social media comment sections were packed with people saying they tuned in specifically because she was part of the broadcast and then ended up watching the entire game anyway. Some even admitted it was the first NBA game they'd watched all season. That's not casual interest, that's real influence. Whether you love the hype or question it, the pull she has right now is undeniable, and networks definitely notice numbers like that.
First two games of its Sunday night basketball franchise last weekend, and doubleheader delivered record-setting viewership. Sunday night's first game between the Los Angeles Lakers and the New York Knicks from Madison Square Garden averaged 4.5 million viewers across NBC and Telemundo. Oh my goodness, 4.5? Making it the most watched Sunday night regular season game since 2002.
We really haven't seen this kind of crossover impact from a women's basketball star before. People often compare moments like this to Michael Jordan's era, but many of us were too young back then to fully grasp how massive that wave actually was while it was happening. With Caitlin Clark, though, we're watching the effect live. Ratings, engagement, headlines, all of it. And honestly, it connects directly to something the NBA has quietly been interested in for a while. There's been talk about inviting her to an NBA three-point contest, maybe even setting up a fun shooting showdown with someone like Stephen Curry. From a business perspective, it makes total sense. The league has been looking for ways to boost viewership, especially during big showcase weekends. Someone who can genuinely shift audience attention the way Caitlyn does? That's exactly the kind of spark they've been searching for. And if this trend keeps going, don't be surprised if we see even bigger collaborations soon. So stay locked in, because this story definitely isn't finished.
Where the NBA was saying they needed Caitlin Clark to come over and shoot in the three-point contest, or at least have that contest against Stephen Curry, because they need her. They need her, man. Their numbers has been dwindling as well. So I can imagine they're thinking like, hey, look, we have a hot commodity. Let's get her over and let's get some viewership going for the All-Star weekend.
That's honestly why it felt so strange watching some people try to spin this whole situation into some kind of men's versus women's basketball showdown. You had voices like L. Duncan framing it almost like a gender turf war, suggesting the men should somehow shift attention toward the women's side. But let's be real for a second. That's not what this is about. This is about star power, plain and simple. It's about putting the hottest name in basketball right now in positions where she can boost viewership. The NBA has financially supported the WNBA since day one, so of course they're going to look at what's working and think, how do we tap into that momentum? That's basic business logic, not some social statement. And look, Caitlyn choosing not to jump straight into the NBA three-point contest for her first crossover moment. That's completely reasonable. That's her call. Nobody should be forcing that timeline. But turning her decision into some dramatic commentary about gender politics just feels unnecessary. Across both leagues right now, if we're talking pure popularity and attention, Caitlin Clark is arguably the biggest draw in basketball. That's not disrespect to anyone else. It's just where the numbers are pointing. So naturally, when leagues or networks need eyeballs, she's the person they're going to consider first. Now here's where the story gets even more interesting. NBC Sports president Rick Cordella didn't just casually compliment her appearance. He basically made it clear they want her involved far beyond that initial March 29th analyst slot. After just one broadcast, he sounded like someone who had already checked every box on his wish list. And the way he talked about her wasn't nice guest appearance, energy. It sounded more like long-term investment energy. He praised her basketball IQ, her communication skills, and how comfortable she looked despite the massive audience watching. That's huge because sitting at an NBA analyst desk isn't easy, especially your first time. He specifically highlighted how prepared she seemed and how naturally she handled the pressure. And honestly, watching it back, she did look like someone who'd been doing media work for years, not someone stepping in for a one-off appearance. NBC already confirmed she'll be analyzing that Knicks versus Thunder matchup on March 29th. But Cordella made it clear he hopes that's just the beginning. When a major network president talks like that publicly, it usually means conversations behind the scenes are already happening. No official expanded contract yet, sure. But reading between the lines here isn't exactly complicated. There's real interest in building something ongoing with her. And if that happens, seeing Caitlyn regularly in the broadcast booth could actually be pretty exciting, especially with all the uncertainty surrounding the WNBA right now. Because let's not pretend everything's smooth over there. The CBA negotiations have gotten messy, really messy. There's legitimate uncertainty about whether a full season even happens depending on how talks progress. If things stall, broadcasting could become one of the main ways fans still get their Caitlin Clark fix. And honestly, she's proving she doesn't have to rely solely on playing to stay relevant. Speaking of that CBA drama, it escalated again recently when Ramona Shelburne shared details of what's supposedly the league's latest proposal. Though it looked more like a leak situation that spread everywhere fast despite being marked confidential. Classic sports business moment, honestly. According to the proposal, salaries would increase significantly to reflect projected business growth, while still protecting league profitability and investor incentives. Sounds polished in corporate language, right? They outlined projections where the Supermax salary jumps from around $250,000 previously to potentially $1.2 million once a new deal starts, eventually climbing toward $1.8 million within 5 years. There's even an optimistic growth scenario that could push it closer to $2.4 million by year 5. Take a second to process that. Roughly $2.4 million for a 4-month season. That's major progress financially for WNBA players. Average salaries would reportedly rise from about $120,000 to roughly $540,000 initially under the deal. potentially reaching $780,000 after 5 years. And if that higher growth projection actually hits, the league-wide average could approach 7 figures. That would be historic for the WNBA. Yet despite that, some reactions labeled the proposal disrespectful or insufficient. Everyone's entitled to their view, of course, but from a business standpoint, it looks like a substantial step forward compared to where things started. What I personally don't understand is treating a 5-year CBA like it's permanent. After 5 years, negotiations reopen. If revenue grows the way everyone hopes, players would walk into the next deal with stronger leverage and real financial data backing them. That's usually how league economics evolve. Rejecting a solid interim step while the league's future stability is still developing is definitely a bold move. There were also some odd details in the proposal. For example, eliminating marijuana testing while simultaneously introducing treatment programs for substance issues. That's a bit contradictory on the surface. They're also reportedly reducing certain anti-drug disqualification penalties, offering complimentary all-star access for players, and providing free league pass subscriptions. Surprisingly, not all players had automatic access before, which honestly feels overdue. One genuinely positive addition is the potential expansion to include developmental roster spots. Even if those players only suit up for limited games initially, expanding opportunities matters. 12-player rosters have always felt tight. More depth helps competition, development, and overall product quality. But circling back to Caitlin, because she really is the center of this conversation, she's become a content magnet. She doesn't even need to play to drive conversation, ratings, or engagement. NBC saw the effect immediately and started strategizing about bringing her back. That alone speaks volumes about her current market value. The timing couldn't be more interesting either. The WNBA is navigating complicated labor talks while Caitlin is simultaneously proving she has options outside traditional league play. Broadcasting, partnerships, media work. Those doors are clearly open. That's real leverage, and it's exactly how modern athletes expand their careers beyond just competition. What's rare here isn't just talent, it's crossover appeal. Women's basketball has produced incredible players before, absolute legends. But pulling millions of viewers to an NBA broadcast simply by sitting at the analyst desk? That's a different level of mainstream reach. And the NBA definitely notices that. They've had their own viewership challenges lately. Engagement fluctuates, ratings ebb and flow. So when someone demonstrably attracts audience attention, leagues and networks naturally want to collaborate. That's not controversy, that's economics. Some people try to overcomplicate it with debates about respect, gender dynamics, or league competition. But at its core, it's simple. Caitlin Clark draws viewers. Networks want viewers. End of story. What happens next will be fascinating. If the WNBA season moves forward smoothly, she returns to dominating on the court. If negotiations drag out, she's already shown she can thrive in media roles whenever she chooses. Either way, she's positioned extremely well. NBC especially isn't likely to let this momentum fade. Whether it's NBA broadcasts, college coverage, or entirely new programming, they're going to keep finding ways to feature her because the return on investment is obvious. Meanwhile, the CBA situation will probably stay complicated for a while. Negotiations rarely resolve quickly. Both sides hold firm positions, media narratives fly, and compromise usually takes time. Standard sports labor dynamics. But while all that unfolds, Caitlin keeps building her brand. She's not waiting around for circumstances. She's creating opportunities. Breaking viewership records without playing a single minute? That's influence. That 4.5 million viewer number from NBC isn't just trivia. It's a benchmark. It'll come up in sponsorship talks, media deals, endorsements, everywhere. Because it proves something tangible. She moves audiences. And in modern sports media, measurable audience impact equals leverage. So yeah, Caitlin Clark just demonstrated you don't need to be on the hardwood to dominate the basketball conversation. NBC noticed. The NBA noticed. Fans definitely noticed. And the WNBA probably hopes those CBA negotiations wrap up sooner rather than later. Because right now, she's showing she has plenty of options either way. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to Court Queens for more real basketball talk, and drop your thoughts below. Do you think that CBA proposal is fair progress or still not enough? Let's talk about it.